Afternoon, everybody, or good morning, depends on when we're watching this. This is Chris, and we're going to be talking about a Rails 5 application that we built for Project 2 in the WDI Immersive course. So let's check out what we got going on today. We have the app itself, we have the code base, which we'll be referencing in a second, and we have the terminal window, which is where the whole thing goes down. So a quick just note about the whole deal. When you start and you build a Rails app, the first thing you need to think about is you need to think of data. So we have two things that we're using to seed the app, which we're going to log in to see right now. The app completely comprises of tweets, emojis, users, and then a couple merge tables that joins them together in creative ways so that we can display cool information. So the first thing that we did is we needed to get to the emojis, and here we can see them all right here in the JavaScript object notation. But again, that's JavaScript, so that's kind of weird. So what we need to do actually is we have to go into our seed file and use this active support helper, which will decode our JSON file, store it in a variable, and then we just call our normal active record methods we've been using for the past 2 weeks. So json.eachDo for each JSON emoji. We're going to create one, and creating it is going to populate it into our database. So that's cool. But then the next problem is, how do we get the actual tweet data? That's a little weirder. But the way we got that was we used a couple different gems. We'll go into our gem file, and we'll talk about them in a bit. We'll talk about it's a tweet stream, an event machine, and the actual Twitter gem. So the way that looks is we go into our library, and we go to this rake file. So what a rake file is it's a script that you can create that will run and permit in the background of your console, which is really cool. So we have this happening right here. Something was aborted. We had our sig term was exceeded, so we might have got rate limited on downloading these, which is crazy. But what we're going to do is we'll just see if we can run it right here. We'll do rake Twitter scrape, and we'll see if I haven't actually hit the rate limit for this yet, because I was trying to have it going for the day. So we authenticated, and we're going through. You can see tweets are coming in, but they're not being saved yet, because what we do is you can see, it's saved a file. So this is the code with TweetStream and Twitter that will actually authenticate, and you can now see our OAuth token. That's really bad, but we'll figure it out later. It puts that I authenticated, and then we use the client here to filter and follow these accounts, which are normaled out. Then we go into and we use active record to create a new one, taking a status. This is just all part of the actual Twitter object coming in. It tells us that it's received, and then we use a regex expression to filter it, and then if it doesn't meet these regexes, then we save it and put I save a file. The cool thing about the rest of this is that now what we can see is we can see that this one was at 1300, but now we have a whole new population coming in. So that's awesome. We're going to stop the script, and we'll just show you the basic nits and grits of the app. We can now go into the app, and we're a user. We can assign and say, I really like this. We can only assign one just for permissions, but we can go all the way through, and this has the selective normal Apple emojis. If I sign out of this, and I go to Barney. Barney is a cool dinosaur, and he loves emojis as well. He can go in, and he can see all the cool stuff that was in, but he cannot interact with it, but he can also create his own. That's really sweet. We'll look at some code as to why that all works. The app is designed around one single view. It's the index Twitter view. In the index Twitter view, what we're doing is we're going to each table in our database, and instead of the way we've traditionally been doing it, going to a new table, a new view, a new index, a new show, and reloading it, we're actually looping the elements over each other. So if we think about it, tweet is kind of our top element. We're looping over that. We're playing out all these different parts of the tweet in the database. We have a username created at status. Then we're going to be populating two types of boxes, the selector box, which is here, and the actual box that they get populated in for the user choice. And this is a weird bit of code, only because what we're doing here is we're calling the button to, and we're calling the controller directly to actually populate and make it happen. Then we're going to go up here, and when we actually want to delete it, it's this entire button to method that we're calling out a crazy path. And what we can do is we can go into our controller and see how this is all nice and skinny and not weird at all. So our controller is still, all the logic is kind of in the view, which is a little weird, but because it's the form, it's still private and not JavaScript and not editable. The last cool thing I want to show you today is just how to sort things by type. So if we go to top tweets, we can see all the ones that have actually been done, and they're sorted out by their length. Normally what you'd think you'd be doing, let's go to a new file. We do like tweets.childs, in this case emoji tweets, .count size, length, whatever method you want to use. But that's kind of unwieldy when you want to actually use it in the view. So what we did was we went into the database, we created a new migration, and we used this thing called counter cache. And what counter cache is we take the actual table of the child, and we say, okay, we want to get the count of that child in this new column that we're adding to the parent table. I know it gets a little weird. We're going to call it an integer. We're going to default it to 0. And then what happens is when that column actually exists, if we go into the controller for the view that we are sorting all of the elements, we can go here, wrong one, here, here. We can see that's the view, and we can go into the controller for here. We can see that now the actual count is stored on the table of tweets. So this is now a property rather than going and trying to cycle between, okay, I want this table, this is a child of this table. Don't even worry about that. It doesn't have to do, it doesn't work in the models or anything like that. You can actually just take this counter cache, sort it by descending, it's on the table, and it talks to the parent and child elements. We can see here, counter cache is true. You have to actually have that in your model so that you can, Rails knows that you're using that feature. And then when you sort by it, it'll actually sort up and down. So that's the nitty gritty. That's the be all end all. If you enjoy the Olympics, go check out the news site, which is linked at the top. You can see all the cool news stories that are probably being updated as the tweets come in. My name's Chris, and this has been my Twitter app. Thanks again.